we've got another music biopic, this one focusing on a few select years in the life of a reggae god. Let's talk about Bob Marley, One Love. Hey guys, Dan here. This is Dan Reviews It. Welcome to my movie review for Bob Marley, One Love. This is playing in theaters right now, and it debuted at #1, a huge opening weekend for this film, beating even Madam Web. Madam Web is a horrible movie. It got, terrible word of mouth, but, a huge, push from Sony, a big superhero movie. So a little surprising. But look, Bob Marley, obviously one of the most recognizable people all over the world for generations, so it does make sense that people would come out for this film. So before we launch into the specifics, though, on what this film is focusing on, because like I said, it is just a few select years in Marley's life. But before we launch into that and my thoughts on the movie, let me welcome you into Dan Reviews It. Thank you for finding this video. We do movie and TV reviews here, and just about every day I post something new, so there's always a lot to check out. Please consider subscribing, hit that like button, comment below. All that stuff, of course, helps the channel out. All right, so Bob Marley, One Love. This focuses on the years between 1976 and 1981. So he's already an established musician at this point, but there is a bunch of political conflict in Jamaica, and it's affecting everybody's lives. So Bob decides, hey, me and my band, the Wailers, going to put on this concert promoting peace. And leading up to the concert, somebody breaks into their rehearsal space, which is also their house, and shoots. Bob shoots his wife Rita and some of the band members as well. And it goes from there. And obviously we know Bob Marley doesn't die in that moment. And I don't want to spoil anything else, but anyway, we lead up to, well, you know what? I will spoil it because she's a major part of the movie. His wife doesn't die either. But what can we say? She's the co-star of the movie. But this goes up to 1981 and largely focuses on the making of the album Exodus, which became, a huge hit upon release. Bob, he's got the biggest, I think, reggae album of all time with Legend, which is his greatest hits package. It's one of the biggest selling albums of all time of any sort of genre. So, obviously a huge hit for him, but Exodus as a studio album was a big hit at the time as well, and still, sells today. So this movie is really about those few years. And what's interesting is I got the time wrong on this movie. So I was a little late to the game. I missed what I thought was maybe 10 or 15 minutes because the first thing I see is them getting shot and they're adults, and I'm like, oh, okay, I must have really been later than I thought. So I stayed for the next show, of course, so I could see the whole movie, and literally I missed 3 minutes. That happens right away. There's a few title cards saying, okay, back in 1976 there was all this political stuff going on in Jamaica and this, that, and the other thing, and that's the second scene of the movie. Which is weird, and here's why. Because they kept flashing back to this one memory or whatever of Bob's mind. And I don't know if it was a dream. I still don't know, even having seen the full movie, if it was a dream or reality or whatever. But it rears its head, a few times in the movie, and I thought, oh, okay, this must be a scene that I missed, the opening scene or whatever from when he was a kid, and No, there's very little context for that, and there's one scene smack in the middle of the movie where we show a young teenage version of Bob and the Wailers going into a recording studio and trying to sort of get their sound, and that's it. That's all we get in terms of their coming together and, oh, here's how he created the Wailers, really nothing. And I'll be honest, I like Marley's music. Obviously I know so many of the songs, but I'm certainly not an aficionado. I didn't know how they came together. I didn't know any of that. It might have been interesting to showcase a little bit of that. And I'm not saying every music biopic has to be that by the numbers and go, okay, from birth, to death. I don't mean that at all. And many of them have done it in different ways, but this just seemed a little bit all over the place because of that. if you're going to focus on these years, just do those years. We don't need to necessarily even, have these little dream sequences or whatever they were. And one random flashback sequence. It didn't quite gel with me in that regard. This was directed by someone I am unfamiliar with, Reynaldo Marcus Green. Um, and he did, I have seen one of his movies. I didn't recognize the name, but he directed King Richard, which was another biopic. And that was what Will Smith won his Oscar for the night of the famous slap, for playing the father of Venus and Serena Williams, Richard. So he has biopic, directing history. And I thought King Richard was a much better movie than this, because tonally this is kind of a mess. But here's what I will say. The acting by the two leads specifically is great. So as Bob Marley, I've gone this far in the video without even telling you, but Kingsley Ben-Adir plays Bob Marley and Lashana Lynch plays Rita. And these people, you may not know by name, but you may recognize them because they both are part of the Marvel Universe. Kingsley Ben-Adir was in Secret Invasion, and Lashana Lynch is Monica Rambeau from Captain Marvel, and she's done, a few other things along the way. She was part of Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness and whatever, but she was also in The Woman King. She was also in No Time to Die, so you've probably seen her. But both of these two leads were great, by far the best part of the movie. And a lot of times, look, that can go a long way. The Whitney Houston movie was very by the numbers, but I did not really love, that actress's portrayal of Whitney. So, I had to drop it down a little bit for that. But here it's kind of the opposite. The movie itself is a little bit middling, especially with, some of the tonal problems, and just sort of the by the numbers. Like they have the scene in the boardroom of the record company where the white guy doesn't understand the vision. And all right, we saw that in Bohemian Rhapsody. We've seen that. So we got that. And although I will say there was one funny part where the white guy can't really understand what Bob is saying, and he's like, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't get that. And in the audience, I'm like, yeah, this is like a third of the movie for me. Like their accents are so thick. It's so authentic, is why, because they're giving great performances. But it's so authentic that I did have a little trouble kind of understanding. I probably would have liked to watch this movie more with the closed captions on so I could understand everything. I pieced it together enough, certainly. But yeah, no, these are two really, really solid performances in a more middling movie. But they do elevate the movie to that average. If they were worse performers, it would be more of like a D+, C- kind of movie. But because of these two good leads, I will leave it with a slightly higher grade, still pretty average for me. I leave Bob Marley One Love with a C. But you can see this in theaters now. Obviously, the music is great. There's no denying that. But you could also listen to the record as well. All right, thanks for watching Dan Reviews It. We'll see you next time. Bye.